If you've tried coping tools like timers, charts, even sensory tricks, but your ADHD child still melts down, can't focus, you're not alone. Truth is, coping tools really only manage the surface. What actually works is helping your child's nervous system feel safe from the inside out. Today I'm going to show you how ADHD really connects to the nervous system and the simple framework for helping your child regulate naturally. Look, most parents, they're told to manage the symptoms, but meltdowns, short attention spans, and dysregulation, those aren't just behaviors, those are serious signs that the nervous system is stuck in survival mode. So today I'm going to walk you through the nervous system pyramid and why safety comes before focus, and how you can use this to finally help your child regulate without relying on more coping tools. All right, so I'm going to get into the pyramid. The first system that we're going to talk about is the autonomic nervous system, and this makes up the bottom of the pyramid. And the pyramid is how your nervous system develops. So your child has to go through a particular development, and if those developmental sequences of how the brain grows and how it programs itself, if that doesn't follow the right path, if there are areas that don't feed into the next phase appropriately, then there's going to be lags, and that's going to show up as different types of issues. The very first bottom layer, this is the safety system. This is how we actually deal with stress in our life or life-threatening situations. This is what keeps us alive. This is the very first system that comes online while we're still in the womb. And this system has to be intact and working appropriately for all other future systems to work the right way. So if we look at this system, we can think about it like being gas in the brake. So if you have your foot on the gas, that's your fight or flight. That's your sympathetic mode. If you have your foot on the brake, that's healing and rest and recovery. If a child's body can't shift between this gas and brake, they effectively can't shift between stress stuck on and then stress coming off by hitting the brake. And their body is always going to feel unsafe. So these children, these ADHD children, this layer is compromised. Their body is always under stress. And so they're running around with stress stuck on in their nervous systems. They are feeling unsafe. They may not verbalize that, but they are feeling unsafe inside of their body, which is leading to what I'm going to get to next. So once safety is established, the bottom of the pyramid, the motor system is then the next thing that can start to develop. The motor system is in charge of balance, coordination, movement, and this needs to develop appropriately. So movement is regulation. Kids who can't regulate, often they can't move smoothly, they can't feel inside of their body, they're disconnected. It goes one of two ways with ADHD kids. It's either they're bouncing off the walls because they're now getting way too much information that's coming in from all the muscle activity in their body, and it's not being gated through the nervous system. So it's literally, you look at these kids with electromyography, you can actually look at their muscle tone, which is firing into their brain, and it's off the charts. It's like a rock concert going on in these kids' brains, and that information is coming in. It's literally overwhelming them, and they are not in a state of feeling safety. They're in a threat mode at all times, which is why fidgeting or constant movement and not being able to sit still is kind of a hallmark characteristic of these kids, because they are not able to feel into their bodies, and they constantly have to move in order to try to create and make sense of all this excess stimulation that is hitting their brain. Now, the other side can be true where it programs a little bit differently, where you have actually too little activity coming in, and these are the kids that are more lethargic, a little bit more sloppy. They're not the hyperactive, they're more the inattentive type of ADHD, where they're not paying attention and they just kind of drift off, they don't listen, and you have to repeat yourself over and over. That happens across the board, but where you're repeating yourself over and over and they seem checked out. So this is a motor system issue of overactivity or underactivity in that motor system that is not coming online well because there is not safety in the nervous system. So the third tier of the pyramid is the gut and immune system. When the nervous system and the motor systems are solid, meaning you got safety in the nervous system, it's now feeding into a properly developing motor system, then now the gut and the immune systems can come online. Many ADHD kids have gut issues and frequent illnesses, immune system struggles, allergies, asthma, different things that are tied to that immune system. These are tied back to early stressors in the nervous system. Most people completely miss this fact and they seem like they're completely unrelated issues. But when you pull back the dial and you understand this pyramid, you start to make sense of these other varying systems that are actually tied back into a fundamental disconnect of that base of the pyramid that we're getting at. Now, before we get to the top of the pyramid, if you haven't had a chance to subscribe to the channel, go ahead and subscribe to the channel right now. Now, the top of the pyramid is your higher level brain-based cognitive function, like focus, emotions, behavior, memory, speech. All of these are the last things that are developing in a healthy developing child. And these systems take 30 years to develop. It takes a very long time. And so when we look at this, it's not just a matter of a couple of years these things are going on. It's like, no, this is happening all the way up until someone's early 30s is how this nervous system is developing. And really what's happening with ADHD is there is a major delay because there's not enough safety in the system at the autonomic nervous system level that it creates this delay. So it's not that these things don't start coming online, they do, but they're just delayed for their age. So it makes sense that a 3-year-old can't focus really well and gets distracted quite easily, like, has squirrel brain. But we expect them at 6, 7, 8, 9 years old that becomes much fewer and further between. But with ADHD, they're still stuck in that mode like they're 3, even if they're 7. And the same thing with the emotions. What makes sense for, having some turbulent ups and downs of emotions for a 2 or a 3-year-old, you expect it to mature by the time someone's 10. And it progressively gets better and better. That's just how the brain will start to grow. But in ADHD kids that have not had safety and their autonomic nervous system is shaky, then stress has constantly been stuck on in their system, and now they don't have good emotional regulation as well. So all of these things, they're tied together with executive functions in the brain. So if we're approaching this and we're just thinking about top-down ways of rewarding behaviors and sitting beside them and we got to medicate them and do all these things, and that's going to fix it, and then create all this scaffolding of reward charts and managing their every behavior, that's so much stress on you as a parent, and really it's unrealistic because it doesn't shift the actual problem, which is at the base. So that's why charts and coping tools, they don't work long term, because you're asking the brain to do something that the body isn't ready to do. It's just ask a 3-year-old to do a complex sequence of a math equation. They can't do it. Ask them to give them a long series of directions. They're not going to be able to follow it because they're 3, because their nervous system isn't built to handle that yet. It will, and the same thing happens with your ADHD kid. You're asking them to do something that their brain is not capable of doing, which means you're going to have to be the one to manage it for them. So what we have found is that regulation starts with body-based signals. What I mean by that is that we want to create safety in the system, and that doesn't come from us teaching your child stuff. It comes from them experiencing safety inside of their nervous system. A few easy things that you can do right away is you can start to entrain your breath to your child, or teach your child to basically entrain their breath to yours. What that means is that if you start getting into a calm breathing pattern, if you start breathing in 4 seconds and then exhaling for 6, 7, or 8 seconds, so your exhale is longer than your inhale, what that's doing is that's actually putting your body into a relaxed state of breathing that signals safety. And kids are highly attuned to adults, especially their parents, to regulate to their nervous system energy. So if you are actually signaling safety through your nervous system, through the way that you're breathing, the mirror neurons in their brain, which are picking up the signals, as well as electromagnetic energy that's coming off of your body stating that you are in a coherent, safe state, will actually allow the child to relax and calm down their system. And so that might sound simple, but it's actually extremely powerful. Another thing is actual physical touch. So holding, why babies and toddlers, like my kid always wants to be picked up, especially if she's getting tired or she's, she's 3. And if she's been stressed out, or I can tell like, oh, okay, this is, things are getting a little dicey right now, pick her up, and she's almost always happier about that, because now that's actually feeding information of safety into her brain. She's with her protector, she's with her parents. And so there's pressure signals in the body, and that's why things like weighted blankets actually give benefits. So, if kids are getting older, like weighted blankets are a thing that can actually help them to feel safe in their body. It's not just a crutch, it actually allows them the chance for their body to calm down. Now, if this clicked for you, you're already ahead of 90% of parents trying to help their ADHD child. Now, inside the Parent Healer Academy, we walk you through step by step the hands-on nervous system techniques that we used in clinic to get results, so that regulation and focus come naturally without all the coping tools that just don't stick. So if you're ready to stop coping and start healing, then click on the link below to join our Parent Healer Academy group on School. And if you want to keep learning, then go ahead and watch our next video right here.